It's presidential, the outcome evidential. We strive for higher mental. This time, no accidental. We shine because
Your boy is an author family. What a beautiful day to kick the show off and let y'all know about the book Grateful, right? Go get it, man. Go check it out. It's on your Kindle. We got it paperback, hardback, whatever you need. This is my first book as an author. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of everybody that's supporting, man. Let's go. Beautiful day.
we all here to iron.
Hey man, shout outs to Iron Mastery Academy. That's the academy that's teaching people how to learn and earn on the go, teaching people how to invest and be on the right side of money. Shout outs to Doc Spills and all the educators over there that's teaching people, whether it's levels, colors, harmonics, we're simply teaching people how to learn and invest. And you can just match your colors. That's what we learned from day one. So get with me. That's at Read, Remember, Repeat or at Big MUGGA. Those are my Instagrams. And let's get this money, family.
If you listen to those,
Y'all already know what it is, right? Culture pushers, pushing the culture forward. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm one of the... Well, I know there's a few people out there that's actually doing with the books and all that, but I feel like I'm one of the ones that's pushing forward. That's my goal too. I actually just put out a book myself. Your boy is officially an author. You know what I mean? That was something that I thought was big growing up, and I actually I did that. So I never thought that I would write a book, but about 2 years back I was writing, and I just caught the niche, right? So anything you want to do, you could do. I'm not here to just tell you that, but you already know what it is, right? Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, 50 Cent the book. The physical copy, we donated that to somebody, man. Somebody else could get that and get their read on. So right now we reading off the PDF. You know what I mean? What a phenomenal morning today. All right, where did we leave off? This makes it very difficult to determine who I want to pursue a deeper connection with. I'm always wondering, does she want 50 Cent or Curtis Jackson? This is why I am definitely most attracted to women who don't seem to care about my success, who aren't overly impressed by the persona of 50 Cent. In other words, the ones who act like they don't need 50 Cent, but could be interested in Curtis Jackson. For example, a lot of people have been curious about my relationship with the comedian Chelsea Handler. I guess we seem like an odd couple. I didn't care about what anyone else thought. Chelsea and I met on her talk show, and I started pursuing her right after. I sent her 50 white roses. I called her office and asked to speak with her. She didn't hit me back at first, but finally I got in touch with her when she was about to go to Nashville for an event. I asked if I could fly down and meet her, and she said okay. We met and had a great time together. After that, we ended up hooking up whenever we were both in LA. I even made plans to go on vacation with her and her family. Don't worry, I'm not putting her business out there. She talked about all this publicly. We had fun times when we were together, but what really attracted me to her was how she moved professionally, in addition to a talk show. She also has a reality show and was writing best-selling books. She was a real boss. With all of her various hustles, she was probably pulling in over $30 million a year. That was sexy as fuck to me. Most important, she made it very clear she didn't need anything from me. Chelsea had way too much going on to ever look to me for making something happen for her. If anything, I was probably trying to soak up a little bit of her energy. Ultimately, it never went anywhere serious. There was a bit of miscommunication before my ex-girlfriend Ciara was scheduled to appear on Chelsea's TV show, and we stopped talking after that. I still think that she's amazing though. She's achieved so much success, and what makes it even more impressive is that she's done it on her own terms. I've never been a big proponent of marriage. Maybe I'm jaded because I spent a lot of time in Hollywood where I've learned husband is really just another way of saying my serious boyfriend. At the end of the day, I view marriage as a business deal and not a particularly good one for the person coming into the relationship with the most money. Yet as I get older, I start to find myself being more open to the idea of settling down and building a more stable family. When I go through the mental checklist of things I look for in a potential wife, I'm not starting with looks or fame. Those qualities aren't as important to me anymore. The most critical quality for any woman I'm going to be interested in is self-sufficiency, both financial and emotional. Otherwise, I'm always going to think that they're just trying to get me to sign off those bad contracts. As I was telling a friend the other day, taking care of a woman is not a bad concept, but taking care of a woman who has to be taken care of is a terrible concept. Once I kept going down the checklist, I'm going to have to see qualities like compassion, sense of humor, love of family, and ambition. Okay, being cute won't hurt either, but it's that absence of neediness that's going to make me receptive to the possibility in the first place. That's how powerful putting out an aura of self-sufficiency can be. It can even get a jaded bachelor like me to talk about putting a ring on it and settling down. Own your narrative. That's where we at right now. We've been talking about why it's important to craft your own identity. And now I want to share some examples of people who have been hurt by letting other forces control how they are publicly perceived. Before we jump into that, family, we're going to give y'all some thinking sauce real quick.
Cliche as it sounds, we all know that people who read succeed. I mean, look at the numbers. 85% of millionaires read at least 2 books per month, while 25% of the entire American population hasn't even read a single book all of last year. So what's the best way to actually get yourself to start reading, and at a good pace, so that you can succeed too? Well, you can basically guarantee that you'll read a book a week by taking advantage of 3 psychological tricks. The first is something called implementation intention, basically setting an appointment. See, the biggest problem when it comes to reading is actually getting started. So many people buy books that they're interested in and say to themselves, oh, I'll definitely read this. And guess what? The book just sits there on their shelf, never to be touched again. By physically writing down the time and place of when you'll start reading a book, you're essentially setting up an appointment to do so. And think about it, we don't really miss our appointments. When was the last time you completely skipped a job interview or a visit to your doctor? Sure, you might have been late, but when you set an appointment, you know that you have to show up, and you usually do. The second psychological trick to reading a book a week is to use what's called chunking, basically breaking down a big task into smaller ones. One of the main reasons people start reading books and never finish is because the task seems way too big. It feels like we can't do it. Just take a look at the average nonfiction book, which is about 200 pages long. How long do you think it takes to read that entire thing in one sitting? You're probably thinking 10? 15 hours maybe? Well, in reality, the average human can read a 200-page book in about 5 hours, which means you really only have to spend 45 minutes a day reading, which probably accounts to just a chapter or 2. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to read tomorrow right after lunch at home, it's much more effective to say, okay, I'll read the next chapter tomorrow after lunch at home. When you break down a book to its chapters and even further to its subsections, which most nonfiction books have, then your brain will no longer see it as a huge obstacle that you have to overcome. Instead of thinking, oh my god, this is going to take forever, you'll think, that's easy, I can definitely do that. And finally, the last psychological trick to reading a book a week is to use what's called temptation bundling. Basically, taking a task that you don't enjoy that much and attaching it to something that you really, really enjoy. For example, you can tell yourself that after every chapter or subsection of a chapter you read, you're going to reward yourself with the next episode or the next segment of that TV show you love watching. By doing this just a couple of times, it will actually start to feel good to read, because your brain will start to associate it with something very pleasurable. It's going to think, wow, every time I read a chapter or subsection, I feel great after. And what you might find is that you'll actually start to read more chapters than you need. By combining all of these 3 tricks, you'll end up with something like this. Okay, tomorrow after lunch at home, I'll read the next chapter of my book, and for every chapter I read, I get to watch the next segment of the new episode of Game of Thrones. Try this out, and I guarantee that you'll find yourself reading a lot more.
I often think about my close friend, the late prodigy of Mobb Deep, the duo, which included his partner Havoc, was legendary for their gritty depictions of life in Queens. Notorious Queensbridge projects, Prodigy was an incredible artist and without a doubt one of the best rappers of his generation. But for a lot of people, the defining moment of his career came in 2001 when Jay-Z infamously mocked him by putting him on the Summer Jam screen. If anyone isn't familiar with the story, Jay-Z and Mobb Deep were involved in a public beef at the time, which led to Jay rapping the following about Prodigy. When I was pushing weight back in 88, you was a ballerina. I got the pictures, I seen you. It was a reference to the fact that Prodigy used to be a dancer at the ballet studio his mother ran in Queens. And yes, Jay actually had gotten hands on a picture of Prodigy in ballet tights, which he later infamously put on the screen at Summer Jam. R.P. Prodigy, man. Prodigy was a good guy. The implication was clear. Prodigy talks about how much of a gangster he was in his music, but at heart, he was really soft. In hip-hop, you can't get much softer than being a ballerina. Prodigy clapped back at Jay, but it didn't really reverse the damage. That picture of him in ballet tights on the Summer Jam screen was a major blow, one that he never truly recovered from. I never felt this should have been that damaging though. Yes, it was true that Prodigy's mother ran a ballet studio and that he used to take classes there. What was so embarrassing about that? He had a mother who raised him in the arts. He was cultured. To me, that sounds like an amazing childhood and nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, I felt like Prodigy's art background made him more prepared as a performer than the rest of us. He was a force in the studio, always coming up with new hooks and concepts. I even remember going to his house one day and noticing several movie clips lying around. Man, when did you learn how to write scripts? I asked him. Oh, I read some book that showed me how to do it, he answered, actually. I've been writing them ever since. That's the kind of ability he possessed. He could pick up a book, digest it, and then start churning out scripts like it was nothing. Most rappers struggle to write 12 bars, let alone a movie. They just don't have the same artistic tradition to draw from. I felt Prodigy should have embraced his background more. It's what made him special and would have allowed him to create more significant art instead. He felt pressured by Jay and others to live up to the persona he had cultivated in his music. Tupac found himself in a similar dilemma. Like Prodigy, he had a coach and mother who raised him to be incredibly informed about the arts and politics. Tupac didn't grow up writing raps. He grew up writing introspective and revolutionary poems. He was exposed to the same kind of energy as Prodigy. I always felt Pac and Prodigy were art students who adopted thugging as a theme. Instead of embracing all the culture and pride they've been exposed to, they tried to run into the opposite direction. By doing that, they ran into a trap. In Prodigy's case, it meant getting lured into a battle with Jay-Z. He could never win. Once Jay sniffed out the Prodigy was only representing a theme, he knew how to batter his public perception. Pac paid a much heavier price. By raising the thug flag so high, he sent out a very dangerous signal, one that attracted all the real thugs to him. Once they were present, there was no way he could control that energy. It would have been difficult for a true gangster, but for an art kid like Pac, it was outright impossible. It was that energy that ended up getting him killed. Prodigy and I were close friends, and I miss him a lot. He was such an interesting and well-rounded dude. Every conversation I had with him taught me something new. If I have one regret, it's that I didn't push him harder to let go of the thugging theme and get closer to his true roots. If he had done that, it not only would have revived his career, but also enhanced the overall state of hip-hop. It would have shown a new generation of rappers that it was okay to embrace their backgrounds, no matter where they came from. Family, I feel like this is speaking to me. This is speaking to a lot of people. If it ain't speaking to you, it ain't speaking to you. That's just straight simple. Like, be yourself. Work hard. Plant seeds. You shall reap, my brother. You already know, family. Read, remember, repeat. And them boys out of here.
It was cream in the crops. I'm on my way to the top, and now I'm getting a lot. Push phones off for the lot, dividing them in the lots. I look like I hit a lot. We turning up on the yacht.
And make sure you guys are juicing, man. Make sure you're getting that 100% cold pressed juice at Rise Juice.
Presidential guys in 2021. Thank you, ho.